want you to stop what you're doing for a second, because what I'm about to tell you actually happened to me. And I know how it sounds, I know. But I need you to understand. Before that house, I didn't believe in any of this either. There was a voice, a man's voice, deep, strong, and it called my name, in a house where I was completely alone. And that wasn't even the worst part.
What haunts you has a name. You may not know it yet. But somewhere between the life you're living and the darkness pressing against its edges, something is waiting to be found. And these are the true stories of real people who have encountered that darkness and will never be the same.
On the shores of West Bay Lake, there stood an old mansion, and for 70 years whoever walked its halls walked side by side with the dead. This is what happened to my family when we moved into this home. It was the summer of 1969. I was visiting a friend out near the bay when she said, "You want to go and see the old haunted house?" I said sure. I didn't really believe in haunted houses. I was a practical woman, mother of 4 kids, recently married, just trying to build something good for my family. And then I saw it. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I fell in love instantly, like irrationally, completely in love. The house was enormous, sitting right there on the water, this massive old mansion that had been completely empty for 40 years. Bats were living in it. The wind was howling through the broken windows. The locals called it the haunted house, like it was a warning. But I called it home. It just drew me into it. I can't explain it. You have to understand, I genuinely felt sorry for it. I looked at this crumbling, gorgeous, forgotten place, and I thought, I have to save it. I wanted it in the worst way possible. Something about it just pulled at me, pulled at my stomach. My husband, Sam, drove out to see it. He owned a construction business. He's a practical guy, just like me, has a carpenter's eye. And he saw what I saw, just tons of potential. A project. We had 4 kids, we had been moving a lot, and I kept thinking, this is the last house we'll ever need. I can see myself growing old in this place. My 9-year-old daughter Mary was less convinced. She walked in, looked around at the peeling paint, the rotting floors, and said, "We're going to live here?" She was right to be scared. She was always smarter than the rest of us about that place. But within a month, we moved in. I threw myself at that house, painted the living room top to bottom, wallpapered every wall. There was this beautiful hardwood floor, a gorgeous fireplace. I could see exactly what I wanted it to be, and it was going to get there. I was going to take it there. But here's the first thing that it should have taught me that something was wrong. Nobody would come near it. I'm talking contractors, plumbers, electricians. I called them up, described the job. They say, "Sure, no problem." And then the second I told them the address, dead silence. Oh, that place. They find some ridiculous excuse. They drop off supplies at the end of the driveway and leave. They wouldn't even pull into the driveway. They wouldn't set foot through the gate. I was annoyed at first, but looking back, they knew. The whole county knew, something that we're too stubborn to see, that I was too stubborn to see. Then one day, I was rummaging through the closet in the bedroom, and I found something rolled up behind old pipes, the original blueprints for the home. And from that moment on, I became completely, and I mean completely, obsessed with restoring it to its exact original state. Like something flipped in my brain. I even tried 11 different colors of paint to match that one piece of woodwork. 11. I had an assignment. That's the only way I could describe it. I felt like I had one job to do, like something was guiding me. I didn't understand it then, but I sure do now. And that's when the wear steps started. It started small. Chairs would move. You put a chair against the wall, turn around, and be across the room. You do a double take, and just tell yourself that you were tired. But you could never shake the feeling of being watched. No matter what room you were in, no matter what time of day, eyes were on you. All of us felt it, even the kids. My daughter Mary told me later she felt it from the very first day. Sam, my husband, started changing. It was gradual at first, you know. When you convince yourself they're just under stress. He stopped going over to work. He sat at the organ in our house for hours. All day, all night. He just started to play this music over and over. And the music started to sound different. Wrong somehow. It started out normal and then it got darker. More angry. Like something was channeling through him. He wouldn't stop playing that stupid organ. He stopped sleeping at normal hours, stopped talking. If you ask him a question, he'd just stare at you. He'd wander around the room for hours and then go onto the veranda to stare at the lake. And the anger, God, the anger. Over nothing. Screaming over a missing hammer, a window being open. One of the kids' pets got loose and he lost his mind completely. He wasn't the man that I married. He was something else wearing his face. And I was alone in the home. Trying to hold everything together with 4 kids, no heat. Carrying water from the lake when the pump broke. But nothing prepared me for what happened one afternoon when I was all alone inside. I was by myself. The kids were outside. Sam was out somewhere, it was quiet. And then I heard it. A man's voice. Deep, strong, unmistakable. It said my name.
Amanda.
I froze, my whole body went cold. I called out, "Who's there?" I started up the stairs because I thought maybe it was Sam coming back.
Amanda.
I stopped on the stairs. My heart was pounding. I checked every room, every closet. There was nobody there. Absolutely nobody. I didn't tell anyone for a while. I convinced myself I imagined it. You do that, you rationalize because the alternative is too terrifying. But then I had some friends over. I was trying to create, some normalcy in my life. And just have people over, some cheese and crackers, pretending everything was fine. All the while we were just sitting there. One of my friends, she started to scream. She just screamed. And then all of my friends ran. Out the door, I watched them leave and I knew the look on their faces. They had seen something. And they never came back. Never spoke to me again. That was the moment I started arguing with myself. That I knew that I wasn't losing my mind. Something was in my house. And I had been there the whole time. After we finally got out. And I'll tell you about that in a second. My father Raymond got obsessed with the place. He actually bought it, which made me furious. But he became convinced that there was some mystery to solve. That whatever was haunting the house was trying to communicate something. So my brother Roy went out and started to renovate. And whatever he saw the first night sent him home in a state where I couldn't even speak about it for months. He just showed up. The lawnmower broke and sat in the corner. And eventually I hypnotized him. I've been studying hypnosis, don't ask. And it put him under, trying to understand what happened to him at the house. And I'm sitting there watching my brother and something else started to speak through him. A voice. Old. Angry. Terrifying. It said,
I am strong. You are weak. Children are weak, and I despise them.
We had it on tape. I played it back. Even my father, who never believed any of this, went white. And then he asked me to hypnotize him, my father. And under hypnosis, my father walked through the house in his mind and found myself in the basement, where he saw a wooden box. Inside was a land grant dated 1767 signed by a man named Jonathan Carver. We looked him up. Jonathan Carver was a real colonial explorer. After his death, his descendants claimed Native American tribal chiefs had a massive tract of land. The very land that the house was built on. but the family could never find the deed to prove it. My father was convinced that the box was real, that the ghost of Jonathan Carver had been trying to get someone, anyone, to find this and settle the claim for 200 years. We went to the basement. We moved the stones and we searched every inch of that mansion. The box wasn't there. But here's what finally got us out. It was winter, and the heat had been shut off because we couldn't pay the bills. The electricity too. We were all sleeping in the room by the fireplace just to stay warm, hauling water from the lake by her hand. Sam had lost his business, lost himself, lost everything. He wasn't speaking to any of us. I called my father one night from the neighbor's house and I said, "Bring the camper, come get me, I can't do this anymore." When he pulled up, I still remembered my kids were just exhaling, like the war was over. We piled into the camper, but Sam stayed, and I never saw him again. On a stormy night, in 1988, lightning struck that house multiple times. The house was burned to the ground. My daughter Mary called me when she had heard. And she said something. Felt like it lifted within her, that she could feel like the evil was finally gone. I believe her, I always believed her. She was the only one out of all of us who was honest about the house from day one. And Jonathan Carver's land, Grant, was never found. His descendants still have no proof. Historians don't know if it ever existed. And maybe Carver's spirit is still out there, looking for someone to listen. Or maybe the house took everything it needed and finally let itself rest. What I do know is this. I walked into that mansion thinking I was going to save it. I walked out with almost nothing. I broke in family and knowledge I never asked for. There are things in this world that you cannot see. They are not patient, and they will use you until there is nothing left. Be careful what you fall in love with.